say, yeah, honey, you're right. And she thinks I'm dumb because she's always right. But you know what? I'm happy. How many people in the world are married? How many of you ever won an argument with your spouse? Did you win? Or did you win a night on the couch? No, I won. Well, there's a unicorn in the room. Everyone get a picture of it. We have choices. We can choose to persuade other people, or we can be so focused on being right and beating them over the head with how right we are and forcing them to the ground and twisting their arm behind their back and saying, tell me I'm right, tell me I'm right. Or we can try and communicate. If we try and beat people over the head with our ideas, they can't hear us anymore. And if they can't hear us, they can't be persuaded. And if they can't be persuaded, then we can never get them started along that path that for some of us takes 35 years. If they won't take the first step, they'll never get to the destination. So think about that when you're going out and you're talking to people who aren't libertarians yet. That you have these choices. You can persuade or you can be right. You have to learn to speak their language. Quick show of hands. There's one old party with the elephants. I think they're called the Republicans, pretty sure. And then there's the other old party with the donkeys. Show of hands if you refer to them as the Democrat Party. Anyone? Okay. Show of hands if you refer to them as the Democratic Party. Okay. Roll call Jim. The first group that refers to them as the Democrat Party, you cannot be heard by anyone from that side of the aisle. They literally cannot hear you. Because by using a term for them that is not the term that they use for themselves, they have immediately pegged you as being right-wing, and they do not hear what you have to say. They will not hear you. They will not listen. So if you use the other term, add an IC at the end when you're talking to people, because it's polite to refer to people however you refer to. So if you refer to Mr. to Mrs., then you call them Mr. If vice versa, then you call them whatever. It costs you nothing, and it wins you a great deal of influence. Because if they can't hear you, they can't understand you. Once you're speaking their language, once you're done with the insider language of status and these terms that we use as libertarians that mean a lot to us but mean nothing to people outside of us, the next step is to focus on agreement. How many people in this room have ever sold anything? Oh, good, lots of you. Well, then this should be pretty much, a repetition, I would hope. But there's an old saying in sales that if you have a product that's got 10 features, right? And you have a customer who is super excited about two of those features, then you never, ever, 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 ever talk about the other 8. When putting in more basic terms, shut up and take their money. This is how it has to work in libertarianism. There are people out there who agree with us on many, many issues and disagree with us strongly on some of them. If you don't have to, don't talk about that other stuff. Focus on the areas of agreement. Ed Thompson, former mayor of New York, used to say, if you agree with me on 9 out of 14 issues, vote for me. If you agree with me on 14 out of 14 issues, find a psychiatrist. We don't agree on everything, and we shouldn't force that. Because we can work together on things that we agree on without making people bend to our will and agree with everything we say. We can focus on the areas of agreement, and if there's somebody who really does like gun control, but otherwise they're a libertarian, it's probably not a great idea to talk to them about guns. Why would you bring that up? That's insane. Focus on positions, not people. This is very important for being nice. And it's a habit that's easy to fall back into, and I have to remind myself all the time because it's very natural for us to treat interactions as personal. As, I'm attacking someone else because they're attacking me. We internalize that. Talk about what position they've taken and why that's wrong. Not about that person being a bad person. There's no need to speak ill of somebody else. If somebody is a terrible, horrible racist, then talk about how racism is really wrong. And we don't like racism, and that's not what we're about. And that position is different from our position. But there's no need to say that that's a bad guy. He's obviously wrong about something. He's solidly wrong. But why would you drop to that level? And if you do that, you'll find that people who don't even agree with us on the issues will see how we comport ourselves and just think to themselves, that guy's a nicer guy than the other guy. And I don't really have a strong opinion on politics, but I'm voting for the nicer guy. There's a ground truth in politics that the Republican Party is learning right now. And there is an entire generation of young people who are coming into one of the worst economies that we've ever had, who have terrible job options, who could really use to keep more of their paycheck. And they have this party, this Republican Party, that at least mouths the words of, we'll let you keep more of your paycheck. And 95% of the millennial generation will never go anywhere near that party. Even though it would be very beneficial for their paycheck. Even if they like having guns, they won't go near that party. Because that party has developed an identity of being bigoted and mean. That's the identity that they've chosen to cultivate. And those chickens are coming home to roost. They will not support people who are mean. And we can either learn that lesson from our old party friends about not to be like that, or we can try and emulate them and see if we can be meaner. I would posit to you that being nicer is probably the better move long term. Because this is a long game. This is not a short game. This is not the next election. This is not the next 2 elections. This is nothing less than a world set free in our lifetimes. Our lifetimes are long and getting longer. So we need to stay in this for the long term and take those long term wins and not go for these short term gains. There's no need to call up to people for a short term gain from where we are as a party right now. We are in the long game. I have a new phrase for everybody. It could be the new thing. I don't know. You'll have to try it out. But it's something I learned from a guy named Larry Sharp in New York. And one of the things he suggests is when you're talking to somebody who's new to the whole libertarian thing, and they tell you, their position on whatever. Government schools are great. I love public schools. They're the best thing ever. Try this phrase out. It's free. It's useful. It's helpful. You might be right. You might be right. Just learn how to say that. Everyone say it with me. I know participation. Come on. You might be right. Not everybody. How'd that feel? Feel good? I might not be right. Well, I might be right. That's the key. When you go to somebody who gives you a position that's totally out of line with what you think, just saying you might be right validates that other person, and now they can continue to hear you. And it's true, they might be right. We've all been wrong about some stuff, so just accept that possibility, even if it might not be really likely that they're right. They might be, and then you can continue to have a conversation. And that's what's important, because if we continue to have the conversation, eventually we are right. The arc of human history bends towards freedom. Individual liberty is such a beautiful concept that we are right. But sometimes it's okay, much like in a marriage, it's better to be right than to force somebody else to agree with you. And sometimes people are more inclined to agree with you if they come around on their own to realizing that you're the one who actually might be right, and maybe they were wrong. If you don't force them into it, it's a lot easier for them. The last thing that I want you to do is pretty simple. I just want you to win. Every single one of you, I want you to win. Because that's why we do this. We do this to win. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus had a saying, everything in life has 2 handles, that by which it can be borne, and that by which it cannot. For those of you who are born visual learners, imagine a coffee mug with two handles. One of them is soft and ergonomically formed to fit to your hand, and you can just hold that cup forever. You can walk around all day gesturing with it, spilling your coffee, never get tired. And the other handle is sharp and angular and covered in broken glass. And you cut yourself as soon as you pick it up, and the bleeding just keeps going, and you're pouring blood down your hand. It's hard to hold that handle. So don't pick things up by the wrong handle. You know, when you come out of an election, Mr. Fitton, did you run for something recently?
I ran for city council in 2013.
Okay, 2012. In 2013, how many votes did you get?
I got 240 votes in my primary, which was not enough in the race.
Okay. So there's a handle by which the whole parties would like you to pick that up, and that is, you're a loser. How's that feel, loser? You feel good? There's a candidate with really bad hair who goes around. I figure I try out, see the word for me. It's not really my thing. You know, you guys don't think.
You might be right.
I might be right. Oh, yeah. That's not a move.
Wrong too, so.
They want you to pick it up by that handle because they know that you can't hold it by that handle for very long. That every time that you don't take the office that you ran for, you think you're a loser, and you're told that you're a loser. And why would you keep running, you loser? You keep losing, loser. Eventually, that gets to everybody. It's hard to pick it up by that handle. You're not a loser. You're a winner. Because your job, you have to understand what your job is as a candidate. Now, I know that y'all have a football team, a regional football team here that's pretty good at the football. Is that
World champion.
Okay, I'm just checking. You know, and whether they may be obtuse ethics or not, they are quite good at the game of football.
Right.
No, that's fact. Who here knows who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are? Okay. Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the dubious honor in 2014 of being the losingest team in professional football. They lost more games than any other team in professional football. Mr. Fishman, how long is professional season?
16 games.
16 weeks. 16 games. How many games did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the losingest team in football, play in 2014?
16.
And how many games did every single player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down to the lowest interior lineman suit up for in 2014? 16. 16 they were hurt. Unless they were hurt. They still showed up. They still show up and they sit on the sidelines and they wear their team colors. They support the people who are on the field. But every single one of those players for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put on a stupid looking Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey every single game for 16 games, whether they lost the last 10 games or not. Because their job, their goal, their mission is, yes, to win a game, but it's to go out there on that field and proudly wear the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey and stand for the collective hopes and dreams of every Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan out there every single week through the entire season, no matter how bad it's been. That's their job. And that's your job as a libertarian candidate. We exist to serve others. And I know that doesn't always go over so well in a party that, you know, has some people who are very strongly believe we exist for the individual. The reason we run as candidates is to provide a voice, to provide a vessel, to provide somebody going out on the field for every single one of those voters who's decided that they want all of your freedoms all the time, that they don't want to settle for half a loaf. It's our job to put on that jersey and get out on that field. And maybe we won't win this game, and maybe we won't win the next game, but every single time you go out there and you give it all that you have, you win. Because you bring more and more people in, and they see that you care about them more than the old parties care about them, that you care about this country more than the old parties care about this country. The Massachusetts Republicans don't care about Massachusetts. Because if they did, they would show up for a couple of games. But they don't. They don't because they won't show up for the games that they're not going to win. Because they're lazy, and they're weak. Because they don't believe that they're in it for the people. They believe that they're in it for the power that they may be able to get if they can take that seat. And they will not go any race where they're not going to take the seat. And that's fine for a corrupt old party. But we're not that corrupt old party, and that's why we go out to every game, whether we win or not. That's why we go out to every election, whether we're going to win or not. That's why we stand up over and over and over again and put on a big old jersey that says Libertarian on it and say, I'm here for you, because I want our town. I want our county. I want our state. I want our country to be better. I want it to be more free. And that's why I stand up. And won't you stand with me? One of my favorite political philosophers, Malcolm X, said, struggle only within the ground rules of the people you're struggling against have laid down. If you're being oppressed, you don't play by the rules of the oppressor. That's just fundamentally bad strategy. The reason that we are so free, the reason that we can win, is precisely because they say we can't win. When we go out there and we stand up in every race, sure, you know, people say, well, the Republican or the Democrat, they're going to be the one who takes the seat. That may be true, but we can make it work. They may be able to take it, but we can make it work. We can stop them from just taking it without any opposition whatsoever. We can make them answer for their terrible bad ideas. Many of you might know that I used to be a public defender. And what people often don't realize is that the best case when you're doing criminal defense is the unwinnable case. It's the one where your client's on video and he totally did everything that the prosecutor said that he did, and there's no legal defenses whatsoever, and, you know, there's just no good outcomes here. That's the best case ever. And the reason the unwinnable case is the best case is there's no downside. There's literally no downside. Oh gosh, if I lose this case, my client's going to go to jail for a long time, huh? Well, so what? You're going to go to jail for a long time whether or not I plead, or I go to trial. You're going to go to jail for a long time whether or not I just kind of roll over into a half-ass defense, or if I make us have motion hearing after motion hearing after motion hearing, for you to give every single constitutional right to my client on his way to jail for a long time. And you know what? Sometimes that was the best way to get a good outcome out of a terrible case, is you make the other side work. You force them to do extra work, and eventually they get tired of dealing with you, and they start having to give you a better offer than he was going to get if he lost a trial. And at that point, then we maybe have something to negotiate with. If you go out there and you run in every single race, and you make it difficult, unpleasant for your old party opponents, they may decide that maybe it's a good idea to start collapsing some of our positions so that these annoying libertarians stop trying to run in every race and stop trying to fight for freedom. Maybe if we give them a little bit of freedom, we can take some wind out of their sails. That's a win, ladies and gentlemen. If it doesn't look like a win on the scoreboard, you may not be the one who takes the office, but if you really are doing this for your country, if you really are doing this for your fellow citizens, and by your efforts in running a libertarian campaign, they get a better life. They get a more free Massachusetts. My God, you're winners. And I hope that you have more wins like that. We have to be happy warriors. drugs. They can't get away from that issue because it's politically unfeasible for them. And the people are way over here. They don't want to throw people in cages for what they put in their own bodies. They don't think that's right. They think it's a waste of resources. They don't want the police focusing so much on making drug busts that the streets aren't safe for, me and my kids. We have an opportunity to lead on that and get out in front of it. In Colorado, when Amendment 64 was on the ballot, we were the only political party in the state of Colorado to endorse Amendment 64. We were behind that initiative. Republicans were nowhere. The Democrats were nowhere. Some individuals were. But as political parties go, we were on the forefront of this issue with the people. And that initiative passed with a greater margin of victory than the sitting president. I mean, that's where we can be. We can be there, and we have been there with issues like marriage equality, which is now off the table. We can be there with issues like immigration. We can be there with issues like birth rights. The fundamental right of a mother to decide how and when she wants to have her child. If she wants to have a child in a hospital, in a birth center, with a midwife, at home, in the woods, it's frankly none of the government's business. And neither of the old parties are going to get anywhere behind that issue because it's scary for them. They want to have control over people's lives, and this is an opportunity for us to lead. We have to show people that we stand with them, that we stand for the fundamental freedom for you to live your life the way you choose, as long as you don't hurt anybody else and you don't take their stuff. That if you want to live your life and pursue your happiness in a way that maybe I don't approve of, that I'll still stand up for you. That you don't have to make my choices for me to stand up for your choices. That message is beautiful. And we can't back down from that message. William Lloyd Garrison, the famous abolitionist, in an issue of the abolitionist, said one of the greatest things that's ever been said in politics. And he was responding to criticisms of his language, his tone, his decorum, in trying to fight for the abolition of human chattel slavery in this country. And he was being criticized for being intemperate, of using harsh language, of being mean. And what he said to his critics is, I'm in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch. And I will be heard. That's where we have to be as libertarians. We have to be earnest. We can't retreat. And we will be heard. When I was in Washington State speaking there, the current Washington State chair talked about the importance of knowing your why. Because as Nietzsche said, a man who has the right why can tolerate any how. My why is my 3 kids. I have 3 children, Ruth, Joel, and Ava. They're 4 and 3 and 8 months now, I think. 8 months yesterday. And I want them to grow up in a